think you are? No, really. Who do you think you are? The answer to this question will determine everything that is possible for you in this moment and beyond. I'm a doctor, trained by some of the best minds in the world from the University of Virginia School of Medicine and the Johns Hopkins Hospital. I'm also a scientist with a background in genetics and a love for public health. I believe in Western medicine at my very core. There's nothing more exciting than to gather a set of symptoms through intentional questions, examine for the signs, run the right tests, coin the right diagnosis, and administer the right treatment. That is, if the treatment works. I can tell you, and I speak for doctors everywhere, that there's nothing more frustrating than to administer a treatment that you know should work beautifully, yet you watch it fail. Now, the doctor in me knows that no treatment works 100% of the time for 100% of the patients for a myriad of reasons. The geneticist in me screams, it's the genes. And if they weren't born with the signs, then epigenetics, the science of how our gene expression changes with our environment, will explain it. Then something peculiar happened to me while still in training. I had an attending physician who was really good at predicting, give or take a few months, how much time a patient had left to live, given everything we knew about their cancer and their hospital course. The prediction was never wrong. On this peculiar day, I was discharging a patient with whom I had gotten very close to hospice, where she could die comfortably. She was given about 6 to 8 months to live. As I walked into her room with a heavy heart that day, she looked at me from her bed with an energy in her eyes I had never seen before. And she said, "Dr. Gueye, I'm done with this cancer. It may try to kill me, but it will not kill my happiness. I am not this cancer, and it will not rule my life." Not only did she go on to live 8 years longer, but many of the accompanying signs and complications from her cancer and her treatment slowly dwindled away over time. Her sporadic emails throughout the years were a pleasure to read, but then I began to wonder, was there something that my medical and scientific background was missing? So when I finished my training and eventually opened my own medical practice, I decided I was going to be intentional with my bedside manner. I thought perhaps it's the simple act of infusing a big dose of hope, the firm belief that healing was possible, that made the difference. And then something even more interesting happened. My rate of positive outcomes on the same treatments went up. And this wasn't just more patients doing better on the same treatment, but strange things like symptoms disappearing on the first day of a drug that takes 30 to 60 days just to build in the system, or chronic conditions drastically improving after a patient had seen specialist after specialist, and the only thing that had changed were fresh new conversations with me. What was really going on here? Could it be the placebo effect? Research on the placebo effect out of Stanford shows that patients do better because of their belief in their ability to heal. Could my belief in the patient's ability to heal, somebody who treats their condition all the time, be in turn leading to their belief in their own ability to heal? Maybe. But there was something more. Research on schizophrenia shows the fascinating example of one woman who, when she believes she is one person, shows completely normal physiology, and as soon as she mentions that she is diabetic, her entire physiology changes, including a rise in her blood sugar levels. Even more interesting is that now a sizable amount of data shows that our emotions are epigenetic and have the capacity to methylate genes in parts of our brains. A famous researcher in this area is Dr. Bruce Lipton, a cell biologist. And Dr. Lipton shows that emotions such as love and gratitude can modify our gene expression in a way that promotes health and well-being, whereas emotions such as fear and anger can modify our gene expression in a way that promotes disease. Another researcher in this area is Dr. Candace Pert, a neuroscientist. And Dr. Pert shows that our emotions can activate specific neuropeptides and receptors in our body that can then in turn modify our gene expression and affect change an individual's health outcome. She states that our emotions aren't just subjective experiences, but actual information molecules with the capacity to change our bodies at the molecular level. So I put this into practice. And before I knew it, patients were referring more patients for coaching alongside traditional medical care. So I took some notes, ruled out some confounding factors, connected the dots, and 147 cases later, the matrix of transformation was born. It was clear that when I helped patients shift their thoughts and their emotions around their condition, they did better. This is what the data shows. And then one day, the ultimate game changer came to the surface. I realized that it was those patients who changed their entire identity story, their self-perception, their beliefs, the left side of this matrix, the very thing that drives our thoughts and our emotions. It was those patients who showed the most rapid and drastic improvements in their health. It was as if they became new people in new bodies. So for a year, I tracked the data. I compared those patients who received coaching to those who didn't on the same treatment. I looked at patients before and after coaching, and the results blew me away. I am not this cancer, and it will not rule my life. This is what my patient had said. Every patient decided that they would no longer be defined by their condition and that they were going to change who they say they are. So in my clinical practice, I meet patients where they are. And for some, simply accepting that healing is possible is enough, and that's okay. For those who want and ask for more, we take a deep dive into redefining this person who has lived with this condition for so long and empowering them into a state that can promote well-being. I take stories such as, I hate my uterus, and I don't remember ever feeling well in my body, to instead saying, I'm capable of overcoming anything. And when I think about it, who I really am is this fun-loving country girl with a joy for life. This patient went on to reverse her chronic pelvic pain, her fibromyalgia, and her chronic migraines after 13 years of struggle. I am. Or stories like, I've always been fat, my entire family's fat, they've all had a heart attack, and I'm probably going to be next. To instead saying, I am not my family's story, and I'm going to make different choices because I am worth it. This patient went on to lose 90 pounds after failing diet after diet, reversed her chronic hypertension, diabetes, and even met the love of her life during our time together. I am. Or my story, where I used to say things like, my job is too important to stop and take care of myself, and in fact, my stress is my badge of honor. To now saying, my success is not defined by how much I suffer, and I am a physician who practices what she preaches. And I went on to reverse a series of my own chronic conditions. I am. How would healthcare change if we could leverage the power of the mind and identity and measurably amplify our patients' ability to heal? How would healthcare change if providers began to speak to their patients differently and gently coax them away from this identification with disease and a distrust in their bodies, and instead into a new state that can empower them towards healing? So I'm going to ask you one more time. Who do you think you are? Thank you.